Howdy everyone. Today I'm going to go over how I create shaded pixel art for 3D printing in Fusion 360. I'm in the mood to make pixel Pokeballs, so I'll walk you through recreating one of those today. I would like to point out that there's going to be a keyboard overlay in the top of the screen to show you what I type. I think it's important to use hotkeys where convenient, as navigating the menus for repetitive tasks take additional time, and I love being efficient because this gives me back more time to which I can be creating. So I'm not going to speed up anything in this video or cut anything out. This way you won't miss anything. Okay, with all that being said, let's get started. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to create a sketch and a defined pixel pattern. So the pixels that I dimension are 2mm by 2mm. And I'm going to double click on one of these edges here so that I select the entire box. And I have a hotkey to create a rectangular pattern, but you can go up and create over here and select rectangular pattern, just like I do. And there's some key features here I want you to note is that the distance type needs to be set to spacing. If you set it to extent, it doesn't really make sense. The distance for each one of the pattern instances that it creates. So you want spacing. That way we can define the pixel size as the spacing so that they equal up to each other and marry up with the grid here that we just create. So for this distance, I'm going to create a, let's say a 40 pixel long grid by a 40 pixel long grid. And then press enter. Now it's going to take a second to compute, depending on how many, how big of a grid here you want to create. I have a couple of presets that I have saved that help me for the computational purposes, so I don't have to recreate this. It's just more so of a template. You can save it from here so that you can use this as a template if you want to save yourself on computational power. I have a decently powerful machine to be able to do this, but I still even struggle at, let's say, 80 by 80 grid, because it has to recreate each one of these pixels every time that you go to do that. Okay, so to start, I'm going to use a reference Pokeball that I have pulled up on another screen. I'm not going to overlay that here because it's not necessarily important for you to see me try to trace out a Pokeball. But I'm going to go ahead and count the pixels. So to me, this is going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 pixels high. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And that's going to be my starting point. And I'm just going to create this circular pattern that this Pokeball has. Just as you can see in the top, I'm holding shift this entire way. That way I can keep my reference. Let's see, this arc here is going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 4, 5, 6. And then I'm just going to recreate this pattern all the way around this Pokeball. So be careful when you are clicking too fast. You may accidentally click and drag. If you click and drag, actually, no, I'm not going to show you here because I've already got most of this Pokeball already flushed out. But if you click and drag, what may end up happening is you will deselect everything for a new selection, and you don't want to do that. So the next thing I'm going to do here is I'm going to extrude this. Now that I have the circle, I'm going to press E to do that. I'm going to type 0.6. Now I want this to be commensurate with my layer height. So I know that I'm only going to do 3 layers of color changes, and the rest of the geometry is going to be a solid color. This saves me on time, of which the multi-material unit has to swap between filaments, because it only has to swap filaments for the first 3 layers. And really, you don't really get much of an additional effect outside of those 3 layers if you wanted to continue doing layer changes. So that's why I use 3 layers as this point of reference here. And I'm printing at a 0.2 millimeter layer height. So 3 times 0.2 is 0.6. So I'll go with that. Now, instead of pressing enter and creating a new body, I'm going to select new component. because I want this to be all of the same color to be exported as a single STL file. And I'm going to name this one anthracite gray because that's the name of the filament that I'm going to be using here. And it just helps for the ease of use whenever I go to reprint this in the future if I name it the appropriate color that I need to use. Now that we've created our first physical objects here, our first bodies, it deselects the sketch because it thought that we were done with it, but we are not. So we're going to reselect that one. And I'm going to keep going and adding the rest of the gray here all throughout because I have additional points of gray on this Pokeball. Let's see, where does this start to curve here? So it goes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And on the seventh one, we go to this pattern right here, I believe. Perfect. And then I'm going to extrude that to 0.6. And this one I can leave as a new body because I don't need to create another component here. Because I'll tell you what I'm going to do is I'm going to expand the bodies tab here and drag and drop this into anthracite gray. So now that I've got my basic shape here, I'm going to press A to go to appearances. Now I have favorites in here that line up with the colors that I have on my printer. Not all of my colors are in here, but enough of the basic ones are in here so that I can at least get a good representation of what the print is going to look like. So I'm going to drag this anthracite gray over this anthracite gray component and drop it. And you'll see that the color of the objects here just changed. I'm going to go ahead and press close here, and then I'm going to start filling in the white. So here's where the first bit of shading is going to come in. So I'm going to only select this outer rim here and these little corners as well as this center point. Now you can see that this leaves me an empty cavity here for the middle of that last Pokeball button. I'm going to press E to extrude, type 0.6 because I want this to be fully white and a new component, and then name this Brilliant White. And again, I'm going to assign this a color. Okay, so the first bit of shading comes in here is I'm going to select this part because I don't want this to be completely black. I want this to be kind of like an off gray. So I'm going to press E and only extrude this 2 layers because I want this to be, excuse me, I want this to be 2 layers of black and 1 layer of white on top. So 0.4 millimeters high, new body, press enter, and then here's my new body. And I'm going to go ahead and select this again and press E, and I'm going to fill in the rest of it, which is 0.2 millimeters, which will get it flush with the top of the rest of the component. And new body as well. I don't want that to join because this body is anthracite gray. If I deselect that, you see the anthracite gray. And this body is brilliant white. And there we go. There's our first bit of shading. And then I'm going to select all of this here. Now, if I go about selecting all of this is going to take a while to click through all of this. So something you can do is the selection in Fusion 360 is a little funky. So if you click and drag from left to right, you only select the points within the bounding box of what you were trying to select. But if you were to click and drag from right to left, you select the full objects or the full squares inside and out of the bounding box that you drug over. Now you can't press and hold shift and do this again, but this will take care of most of the clicking that I would have had to do in the center point, and then I can just continue from here. And as you can see, that didn't take too long. And it's going to be 0.6 again. New body. Eventually, I'm going to drag this over to Brilliant White, and there we go. Okay, so the rest of the ball that we are trying to create is going to be yellow and red. So this is going to be a level ball. Oh, I'm sorry, a repeat ball. This is what this is going to be. So I'm going to start off with the darker colors first here. So my darker yellow shade is going to be at the top here, and the points that touch the Pokeball right here, according to my pixel reference on the side of my screen. Press E to extrude. And I know, based off of my swatch here, that I can get away with adding one layer of black to this, and that will give me the desired shade that I want. And then I'm going to go back, click on them again, and I'm going to add the remaining 0.4 millimeters, do a new body. Now to keep my, actually no, I'm going to create a new component here because this is the first of me creating yellow. Actually, what is mango yellow? Because that's the one I have right now. And then I can go ahead and click all of these bodies, drag them back in anthracite gray because that's the shading I'm going to use. And I'm going to press A to add an appearance and then scroll down to mango yellow and add that in. And then I'm going to complete the rest of the yellow by looking at my reference art. See, and I think this is it. And it's going to be full 3 layers of solid yellow. And we'll add this to the mango yellow. Okay, and this center point here, this is going to be solid black. So we're going to go ahead and fill that in with 3 layers of solid anthracite gray. New body, drag into the appropriate folder. And now the rest of this is going to be red. But I'm going to have a little bit of a shade like I normally do. We'll copy the same features to the other side. Extrude this. Looking at my reference here, I could get away with 1 layer of black, but I think I'm going to go 2 for a little bit of a dramatic effect. New body, click OK. And then I'm going to reselect these and finish this up with a 0.2 millimeters and a new component because this is the first time that I'm touching red. Now I don't have a special red here. It's just Amazon Basics red. So that's what it's named, so that's what I'm going to give it. And then now the shading, I can take these bodies, drag it into anthracite gray, and then color this. I have a carmine red over there, although I'm not using it, it's close enough that I can get a good idea of what it's going to look like. Now I'm going to reselect the rest of this Pokeball. And make that 3 layers tall. New body. Take both of those, drag them into the red. And now I can deselect the sketch, and you'll see this looks a little bit like that repeat ball. Okay, so the next thing I'm going to do is I'm holding I'm pressing shift and holding middle mouse click to navigate around in this space. I want every single one of the light colors to be a single object. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to combine them. You can do this from the modify page here. Just go to combine here. And you want to select join for all of these. So rather than clicking every single one of these objects, I'm going to expand these folders. And then I'm going to click, shift select every single one, and click join. You can see now that's only 2 bodies. If I do that to the next one, it's going to be 1 body. If I do this to yellow, that's now 1 body. If I do this to red, that is now 2 bodies. Now, it's not a very good reason why I do this. I like it for visual sake, and I think it keeps the file size down if I only have 1 body versus however many that were there before. But I can't really prove that because I haven't really tested it. Just in my mind, that's the way the things are. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the underside of this object, and I'm going to start creating the actual thickness of this. So I'm going to select the anthracite gray, at least one of these pieces. I'm going to press E to extrude, and then select the rest of the anthracite gray. This would be a little bit more difficult if every one of the objects were separated. So that is another good reason why you should do this. I'm going to expand mine by 3 millimeters, so that gives us a total height of 3.6 millimeters. And the 3 millimeters wasn't just an arbitrary height. The magnet that I'm going to put in here is supposedly 3 millimeters tall, but in reality, that's not the case. It's actually more of 2.8, 2.75 millimeters, and so that's the geometric height that I'm going to go with. Okay, so we did want that to join because the rest of this is going to be anthracite gray because that's the outline here. And then now I'm going to select the whites, do the same, press E to select them all, and then press 3. Now there's going to be a little bit of a difference here. Instead of joining, I'm going to create a new body for this. And I'm just going to leave them over here in the bodies folder for now. And then I'm going to do the next color, which is the red. Do the same thing, give it 3, new body, yellow, 3, new body. And then now I'm done. Then I'm going to select all of these and add them to anthracite gray, and then combine them again. And now I have a solid bottom. All right, so now I'm going to create another sketch here on the bottom here. I'm going to press line and X to make this a construction line. The construction line is important because this doesn't divide this sketch on this plane. It's important that it doesn't do that because if this was a solid line, then here you go, it's subdivided now. And then now I'm going to create this circle that is not a construction line. I'm going to make this 8 millimeters. And then I'm going to extrude this down 2.75 millimeters. And then I'm just going to create a little bit of a chamfer here, 0.5. Just helps with guiding the magnet in. So easy as that. Hopefully I'll have this printed and you can see on screen before I upload this video what this will look like in the real world. So following my other tutorials, you'll probably already know how to export and save as mesh for each one of these files and upload it into Fusion 360. So if you want to, just go ahead and watch one of those videos. I think it's only a couple minutes long. So, okay, so with all that being said, I would like you to let me know if you found this tutorial useful. I'd really love to hear your feedback here because I'm new at making videos. Provide me the feedback that's needed to make this seem like it's a worthwhile thing to do. So I'm the same name twice, and I'll catch you in the next video.